This podcast is intended for mature audiences and contains adult language and subject matter. Listeners, please be advised.
Hello, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Drinking with Your Ex. I am Blake Thompson.
And I am Bonnie Neal, and welcome to our crazy podcast. This podcast was started because Blake and I are exes. We dated back in the turn of the century, which is still a fun, weird thing to say out loud.
And super appropriate for tonight's topic, but we'll get to that later.
Exactly. So this podcast that you're tuning into, thank you so much, has 3 rules. And of these 3 rules, the first one is that each episode is sponsored by or inspired by a particular cocktail or alcohol that is directly related to the theme.
And the second rule is each one of us gets to introduce the other. So to jump in that fun edge play, riding down that razor blade of letting your ex stare at you as she tries to introduce me.
It's just kind of like asking your ex to hook you up with their friend and then just actually hearing out loud what your ex says about you to their friend. It's just so much fun, except it's so not. And then the third rule is that we both get to ask each other one uncomfortable question related to this week's topic. And there are no backsies. There are no outs. There's no phoning a friend. Actually, we've learned that there's actually no timeouts. A couple of episodes ago, Blake gave me like a real strong timeout. I'm like, no, motherfucker, just answer. And that's what we're here for. You're welcome.
I know. I love it when I get put on the spot. But with this topic this evening, Bonnie and I are both on the spot.
It is. So this week's episode is about age. Age ain't nothing but a number. But, with the shout out to Aaliyah, we all know that we're all responsible for what happened to Aaliyah. Fuck you, R. Kelly. Yeah. And realizing that age actually is a bit of a number. But what does it mean?
And we're going to talk about the myths. We're going to talk about the science debunking the myths.
Yeah. And what is a comfortable age range in which to date in, and how does that vary as you yourself continue to age? See how it all comes together.
And so for all of us that are in that wonderful age of going, how old should I date? What should I do? We're here to help you out with that. With
our really judgy McJudgy opinions and every now and then the slightest bit of Blake expertise. All right. So rule number 1, this week's episode is brought to you by
the Old Fashioned.
Yes, perfect. Isn't it all? You see, guys, we think this through. You're welcome. Yes, so the Old Fashioned, which we have learned is a actually very old cocktail, American cocktail. Blake, do you have some interesting historical data on the Old Fashioned?
Actually, the Old Fashioned came around in the early and mid 1800s. So
So the Old Fashioned may be slightly younger than our fucking country. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yes. So and
if you want to drink like your founding fathers.
Yeah. And the recipe has had many, many alterations, but here's the classic recipe. You dissolve a small lump of sugar with a little bit of water in a whiskey glass. You add 2 dashes of bitters, a small piece of ice, a lemon peel, 1 jigger of whiskey, and you stir with a spoon.
That sounds about right. I don't know why they keep adding sugar to whiskey cocktails. That's my problem with whiskey cocktails in general is that whiskey is essentially sugar. Why do you need to add more sugar to it? But, usually the Old Fashioned is the one whiskey cocktail that, unless you have a really ham-fisted bartender, actually knows how to slightly sweeten the whiskey flavor, but with keeping it like that. So it's usually the one whiskey cocktail I like to drink.
Yeah, like when I would make them, I was always a big fan. Half a sugar cube dissolved in the water, throw the bitters in, and then drop the ice, then add the whiskey and stir.
Yeah, that sounds good. As you can tell, guys, we are, drinkers, and thus drinking with your ex. This is very accurate advertising. So there you go. This week's brought to you by the Old Fashioned. And now rule number 2, getting to introduce each other. All right.
Bonnie, you can go first.
All right, here we go. I usually never have one first, so that's the reason I'm excited about this one. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Blake M. Thompson, my ex-boyfriend that When we started dating, I delighted in telling him that when he was in the police academy, I was just learning to drive. Cradle rubber. But we'll get into the more details on that. But there you go. Still single, ladies. Still a catch. Go.
And let me introduce my ex of how many years? 20 something.
Fuck, you're old.
And so Bonnie just celebrated her birthday. Happy birthday. Shout out to Bonnie, who is now older than most of the whiskey she drinks.
Wow. Ouch. Ouch. Fuck you. That hurts, man. That hurts, man.
And again, this is just me throwing out a little bit more proof for Bonnie that, yes, some of us are meaner than she is.
It's true. I'm the nice one, motherfuckers. There you go. Isn't this fun? All right. All right, so let's launch into it, right? Age. Age is a thing. Age ain't nothing but a number, except, because sometimes age is literally a number, and, some numbers are higher than others. Like, what is I hate this word. What is an appropriate age in dating range and our ages? And honestly, here you go. Let's actually full confessional. How old are you, Blake, right now? Tell me right now. And then what are you going to be at your future birthday, which is not that far away, people.
Blake's right now 49, chasing 50 here in a few months.
Staring 50 down the barrel is like the event
I am
horizon.
going to be a half century old. I'm going to be a Methuselah walking into the dating world.
The crypt keeper. Damn straight. Yes. All right. So now that we've established that, I am a wonderfully well-preserved, excellently moisturized and exfoliated 44. So yeah, for all of you guys keeping score at home, that means Blake is 5 years older than me. Closer to 6. It's going to be great. And when we started dating, I actually did the math, and he wasn't immediately as creepy as I was teasing him about. Well, yes, he and I met when he was 24, and I had just turned 19.
And also, please, for the record, ladies and gentlemen, I met Bonnie in a fucking bar.
It was actually a pool hall, but go ahead. I don't know why I was defensive about that. I don't think that clarifying detail helped.
Yeah.
Continue on.
Continue on. But again, I'm sitting here, Junior at NYU, sitting there in a bar. Yeah, what's wrong? Oh, by the way, I'm 19. Are you now?
Did I tell you that night? I'm not used to usually telling people that.
No, you didn't tell me that for a very long time. So, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't know.
Didn't know, which is why we this is actually a public service announcement given from somebody who was jailbait for way too long, and somebody who was also a bouncer in the East Village, which is also home to a lot of NYU students. You know what? Check the ID. Really, it's worth it. You don't want to accidentally commit a felony. You kind of want to do it on purpose.
Because back in the day, back in the late 90s, depending on what bar you went on to, you had to go, listen, you might not be old enough to drink. Are you old enough to vote? That was one of the questions I've heard people ask.
Well, because if they're not, they have to sit and think about it. Right? Yeah. It's a dead giveaway, even while they're drunk. No, it's true. In Blake's defense, I was a junior at NYU, which is an expectation of me being actually 21. And I was behaving like a 21-year-old. I had my sister's, ID and had my sister's ID for all the years I'd gone to NYU. So, it wasn't really his fault that I was 3 weeks, 19 years old when he met me. But it's...
and while she's sitting in a bar drinking whiskey like a world champion at 19...
I had lived a life by that time. I age ain't nothing but a number, which is, I was an old soul, a poorly supervised teenager. Pick one, same thing, really, at the end of the day. But yes, and so 19 to 24 does not seem like that huge of an age range, even though I teased the fuck out of Blake about it. But once, if everybody's friends with Leonardo DiCaprio, obviously his prevalence for, his preference for models under the age of 25 was sort of cute until he hit his whatever age he is now, and now it just seems slightly
now
creepy.
He takes it rather personally, and he's very sensitive about it, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my God, poor Leonardo DiCaprio, you fucking weird ass emotionally stunted human. I feel real sorry for you. I feel like therapy. I feel like we should all start a GoFundMe for Leo getting some fucking therapy and getting
Right
over
on.
whatever his intimacy issues
I will
currently are.
happily start that GoFundMe campaign, ladies and gentlemen. I am all for being his counselor.
We feel real sorry for him. Totally. Well, we also, all of us, sit in silent and not so silent judgment.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to our original question. What is an appropriate age for dating? Like there's the one big myth is the rule of 7.
All right. What is the rule of 7?
Dating age is basically where you divide your age in half plus 7.
All right. So wait. Okay. You divide your age in half and then add 7 to it.
Yeah.
Which, okay. So for you, we're just going to round up.
Yeah.
You're mostly 50 already. So
yeah, I'm 75% 50, ladies.
You are. Well, probably a little slightly bit more than that, going off of the percentages of months. But yes, so you're 50, 25, 32. So that would be the youngest age it would be appropriate for you to date.
Yes.
All right. Mine is, I am 44, 22, 29 would be the youngest.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I can honestly say I don't think I've ever dated somebody who was 29 years old, even when I was 29. Okay. What would that be like, Blake, for you to date a 32-year-old? Does that feel...
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it'd be weird, but I mean, it depends on what the 32-year-old is looking for.
Correct. I think you actually just hit on the big thing about dating people who you're younger is that it's not that you're just incompatible personalities. It's not that they're a kid and you can't possibly take them seriously. No, it is that, when you're 32, you tend to want different things out of life than
goals.
You're 44.
Like one example,
50.
Like one example I'll use is my former coworkers from my previous job, where Bonnie had the pleasure of meeting at a happy hour, and all of them are stunningly brilliant and beautiful young professionals.
Yes, young professional women.
Yes, occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech therapists,
nurse practitioners, caseworker, right?
Caseworker. I mean, we had the slew. I was in this circle, it's like Bonnie and I were having the conversation earlier. It's like, would you date one of them? I'm like, no.
Well, and then I asked a follow-up question, would one of them date you? And you're like, no. And
no, it's like, I had a dad role pretty quickly at my old job, which was fine and fun. But most of them were looking for people within 2 years back or forth.
Oh, okay. So that age. Tight of a
it was a really tight window, which I mean, that was actually one of the discussions we had at our more raucous happy hour, where they were talking about, 2 years younger, 2 years older, but they were looking for partners. They were looking for potential mates for, looking for children and things like that, because they've now established themselves in a fantastic career. Now they're looking at the next thing. I want to start a family. I want to procreate. I want to buy a house. I want the suburban lifestyle. It's like, I worked hard in college to get here.
Well, I mean, not to have you sort of, tell tales outside of school, but how was that going for them dating within 2 years of their age range? Were they finding partners, male, female, non-gendered, that were also interested in the same thing, or was that a difficulty finding things?
Well, a couple of them had found potential partners.
Okay.
A few of them, one who, again, a stunning occupational therapist who had challenges dating, finding men her own age that were mature.
Yes.
And own knowledge of their own identity. And she was finding people. It's like, they're still trying to find themselves. And it's like, I don't have time for that.
That can take decades. I agree.
Right.
Yes. Time efficient. So that is something I have told female friends of mine who are hitting the mid to late 30s age range and really, really, really do want to have children. My advice to them is to start dating men over 40, because I do feel like this may be a wonderfully Texan thing, but I do feel like in the toxic masculinity, Texas, cis het world, it does take a man turning 40 to be able to say out loud that he really wants to be a father. To recognize to himself and to others that is a life goal. I feel like before then, men are kind of expecting women to trap them into fatherhood, and so that they always have a get out of jail free card and they can blame it on her. And,
I wouldn't go that far. It's
fair. I'm making a slight hyperbole, but you also know what I mean, right? Finding a 25 to 40-year-old cishet male who will admit out loud that being a father is a life goal is a rare fucking thing.
Because most of because again, the majority of them don't know. And they're also, let's be honest, in America, we don't really paint parenthood as a happy, nice thing.
That's true. That's true. Even though we're so pro-family, pro-life, just ask your local GOP party officer. Anyway, I would say we're hard on fatherhood. I do think, we tend to punish a desire to be a father, even though that is a very natural desire.
We also paint it in very antiquated terms.
What do you mean by antiquated?
And images.
Ball and chain?
No. It's where the man is the breadwinner. The man does this. The man does that. The man is
the provider.
The provider, the cliche thing that the boomers enforced on us.
Yes.
But where it's like we are a 50s or 60s sitcom. It's like, yeah, I'm Wharton June Cleaver. I go to work, I come home, and my wife's at home taking care of the kids, making dinner. That's bullshit.
Well, we were all sort of traumatized by 60s sitcoms. I think that the pushing back of the desire for fatherhood, and also, I think kind of the postponing of motherhood is also related to America's fetishizing being young, right? We fetishize the young. We fetishize youth. Youth is the most marketable advertising thing. And that, even with the boomers, they're the first generation that thought that like their best glory days years were in their high school years or in their early college years. The idea that when you were young was the best it was ever going to be. And we still all have that kind of idea and desire. And so there's this clinging to youth and the resistance to ritualized rites of passage, of moving through natural progressions of humanity, right? Of growing older. That, there is something to be said for being a parent. It does seem to be kind of built into the natural progression of a human, right? And to growing older and to, taking care of one's parents, right? There is age is built in, the experiences of all the ages is built into the system that I do think actually late stage capitalism is fucking with.
Yeah. And also, on that note, there's a lot of people that are looking not to be parents.
Well, we are both looking at one, motherfucker. We both decided to opt out of the parenting experience.
But again, there's a lot of people, both male and female, that are pursuing careers or pursuing life goals or pursuing life experiences over procreating or raising a child. And
well, we have a lot more options than that.
We have a lot more options now. And also, a lot of people look at raising a child as, good Lord, that's expensive.
Yes, it is. Well, this is where my family is super useful because my mother and my father and my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, were always pointing out to me and my sisters that we were an investment and had not quite paid up yet, right? My mother used to say, drive safely. I've invested a lot in you. And I'm like, well, I'm glad to hear to keep your investment in Fort Knox safe. I will drive safely.
And I make the joke of, I'm shopping for a third-rate nursing home for you with a low safety rating. So there's that.
Well, I didn't want to spoil the ending.
but Bonnie and I are digressing on this one as we're going down a tangent.
We are going down the tangent. But all right, so the rule of 7, I think, is not a bad rule of thumb.
It's not a bad rule, but it's a myth.
Okay, why is it a myth? What's the science behind it? Because
again, the science behind it is not even science. It's just someone came up with this arbitrary number of 7
and decided to apply a simple algebra formula to it, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
X equals Y equals Z. Here's your dating age. I'm gonna go date that guy. No, it doesn't work that way.
So obviously, it's marketing.
Because again, it's this is especially with most of your dating apps that look at, hey, what's your age range?
So this is something that, yes, reading the one and only dating advice book that I will slightly recommend that I read during the February 2021 ice storm called How Not to Die Alone. Not the best time to read that book, but it's a good book. And one of the things they point out, shut up, is, fuck you, Blake, is to take those restrictions off, right? Is to not put a age range in your preferences.
Don't.
And I disagree with that. I have a weirdly tight age range, and I have for most of my life. I tend to date within 10 years younger, 10 years older. Hard stop. Because, I was always the youngest one, right? I was always graduating early, and so I was always the baby. So yes, I agree. When I was 19, I should not date a 9-year-old. And, probably a 19-year-old should not date a 29-year-old. So those sort of decades ranges, not so great. But now I think at 44, 34 and 54 are that's what my profiles say. And it is because it's not the younger dating partners, it's really the older. I'm not, I have enough daddy issues to begin with. I have no fucking interest in dating anybody who has any daddy energy to rock my way, right? And so the idea of dating over 54, actually the idea of dating 54, that's hard for me. Watching you get older, Blake, has helped me sort of reorient what 50 looks like.
I'm so glad that my approaching the age of death has helped you out so much.
Thank you for aging, Crypt Keeper. It's great for me. But no, it is more of a sort of internal prejudice against older men than it is against younger men. And I'm not sure. I've had a lot of different people whom I trust tell me that is a too tight and really slightly arbitrary age range. Would you agree or disagree?
I disagree with determining what type of age to date. And we're talking about when you meet someone, there could be chemistry involved. There could be also, you meet someone, you don't know their age. You could have someone where they have a career. They're very mature. And you find out, oh my God, they're 26.
They're 26. We recently experienced that. We met an amazing human and she was fantastic and awesome. And Blake was all twinkling at her. And I was like, FYI, she's 26, but she's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like fantastic. And like had a lot in common professionally and personally, which was just like we hit it off great. But again, it was like, it's not a pursuit that I'm going after.
Well, and what we were talking about, like, I think she's amazing. And I think, you should be so lucky, frankly, was my take from it. Yeah. You should be so lucky if she agreed to go out with you, but also that, age ain't nothing but a thing, except it kind of is. And it's not that she's not mature enough, right? It's just that at 26, it seems reasonable to expect that she wants something different from life than you do staring down the barrel of 50.
Yeah. And like also like me and like I made the joke earlier to Bonnie. It's like, yes, me chasing a 26-year-old. The next thing I need to do as I turn 50 is buy a fucking Corvette.
I would love to have the conversation with her about how she's a trophy and she really should have asked for the black Amex card up front.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you know me, I ain't got no black Amex card. I work in mental health.
Yeah, all right. Therapist. I'm like, girl, you're doing this sugar daddy thing all wrong. But, right,
But again, it's just age is a number when it's not.
Well, in one of the happiest, most stable couples that I know, that you and I both know, they married when she was 25 and he was 40. And by all accounts, all of his friends mocked the fuck out of him. And if you've met both of them, they're a great match. And she's actually way more mature than him. But they're a great match. They fit, right? And they worked through whatever the 15-year difference is. It doesn't seem to affect anything.
And also what's really amazing when you see their dynamic.
Yeah.
They're open communicators. And when they talk about each other's relationship with themselves, it's very mature. It's very respectful. There are so many dynamics that they could give lessons on. Hey, we have a great relationship. We're going to teach a class.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, actually listening to both of them talk about their previous relationships. He'd been married before, and she was just a wild child. She just one of a kind. That girl, got through this world well. And there's a weird affection for they both have for like their former relationships and their former selves. It's actually inspiring. I'm like, oh, okay, as opposed to, the sort of cishet normative idea where you should lie about your romantic past because the person might be jealous, insecure, blah, 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 blah. The idea that, I'm listening to her husband tell me stories about her ex-boyfriend whom he's met and he likes. And he's just sort of laughing with the same level of affection as all of her girlfriends, right? That, oh, damn, girl, that's a hell of a story.
Exactly. But there's also so much maturity in their relationship.
Yeah. Not perfect, no marriage is, but I think it goes to show that these rules of appropriateness obviously were made to be broken, which makes me feel slightly defensive about my 10-year age rule, but I'm just sticking with it until proven wrong.
In my years of dating, I have dated younger and I have dated older.
Well, what's your age range? What's your
Right now, I don't know. Oh, she's going to call me out.
Yeah, I was like, try again, motherfucker. I'll give you a chance to, Counselor, would you care to restate your statement?
Why, thank you.
You're welcome.
Because Bonnie's raised by a lawyer, so this is where she shines.
No, the word counselor is very useful.
My age range now, I'm looking for someone around my age.
Okay. Why?
Similar goals, similar viewpoints of the world. Someone that, also I can't say this in a nice way, I don't want to be dating somebody that's going to bury me.
Interesting thing that you brought that up. That is actually something I think about dating above the 10-year-old, right? Actually, I have a friend of mine who is truly one of the most blunt, painfully honest people talking about dating. And that she's like, we're in that weird place is that, we may wind up, being their caretakers. And I want some good years before that. I think I deserve some good years before that.
I agree with that statement 100%.
And so, that is the idea of the 10-year range is that, I want good years. But also you're never assured that. That's not that seems like a really kind of biased assumption. But you're kind of not wanting anybody who's making that same calculus about you. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. And also, as I look at dates, like I said this to Bonnie earlier, it's I'm not so much looking for partners now, but looking for friends.
So that has changed. Elaborate. What does that mean?
Looking for people to add to my social circle, so to speak, where I'm looking for like-minded individuals, share my interest and whatnot, someone to go out and have a good time with, where there's not the pressure of, oh my God, we're dating. We're on a date.
Essentially interviewing them as a life partner. You're kind of taking that pressure off and being interviewing them as a hangout friend, right? Yeah. Which tends to have a much higher chance of success.
Yeah. And it's just I don't want the other person nor myself to have the pressure. Because dating, let's be honest, everybody that I know that is currently dating tells me one thing in common. It sucks.
I don't think that's a headline news.
And we're talking about from people from 22 to 72.
And the people who say they like dating, they're the sociopaths and the, narcissists to whom online dating was designed for. People I know who say they love it, I'm like, well, yeah, because you're pretty much a, pathological narcissist. I have no doubt that that's the best attention buffet ever.
Right.
But all the rest of us are like, God, this is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And, it is. I'm sure maybe one of these days we have a couple that we are planning to interview, and they are an online dating success story, amongst other things. And that's what keeps us all coming back, frankly. That's where that's what turns us into repeat heroin addicts, is that we hear some anecdotal story of an online dating success, whereas the experience itself is quite dehumanizing.
And I'll hear the 1 in 100 story of someone. It's I met somebody on so-and-so and it was just amazing. And this, kismet.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Good for you. I hate you, and I'm actually squishing you between my fingers. Squish. But yes.
Because again, some of my Tinder dates have been utterly terrifying.
I'm sure you should internalize that and actually sit and think about why they were attracted to you to begin with. But yes, no, it was poor Blake. That sounds horrible.
Thanks, Bonnie. Thank you for understanding and looking at me so condescendingly. I really appreciate the moment and the warmth. Oh my God, it's like I have a really sucking, festering chest wound right now.
Oh my God, you're welcome. Thanks for noticing.
But again, it's when you're looking at dating someone within an age range, ask yourself why. What are your goals? It's are you wanting a life partner? Are you wanting a friend? Are you wanting a lover? Are you wanting a Mr. or Miss right now?
You just wanted to hook up, right? Short-term versus long-term goals.
Exactly. Are you looking for someone that's hey, we're going to happy hour at so-and-so. You want to go? That would be awesome.
Is that kind of what you're looking for now in your dating? Is you're just sort of looking for fun happy hour partners? That actually seems like a quite reasonable and achievable goal.
Fun happy hour partners, fun activity partners, that type of thing, where it's hey, Austin Horror Society has tickets to The Shining screening at the Paramount. Want to go?
Yes. Okay.
That type of thing.
Interesting. That's what all the, dating over 40 websites that aren't complete emotional manipulation thirst traps tell you to do, is that, sort of date for in the moment. Because we're not dating to procreate. We're not interviewing, future genetic donors to our progeny. we're dating for quality of life. So there is something to be said about just being in the moment and actually like experiencing your quality of life.
Yeah.
Do they make you laugh? Do you having fun? And is this fun? Do you want to do it again?
Exactly.
Done. That's actually like the end of the expectations.
It's like, you want to go out and grab a beer, shoot a game of pool, grab some wings. That sounds like an amazing evening.
Well, except for me, I hate playing pool because I'm bad at it. But I'll down for the wings and the beer.
Or you're sitting there, it's like, hey, let's get fancy and go to the ballet. And
got to be a moment for me in the ballet. But yes, yeah. But sort of shared interest, companionship on some level, right? Do we enjoy each other's company?
exactly, and finding someone to go to live music, or it's like, hey, going to go get a cup of coffee. Want to come?
You like live music more than I do. We have different opinions on that.
But again, it's just like you're asking me what I'm looking for, and yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Okay, and age doesn't matter in that. It's really just sort of that's personality and game.
Yeah.
Which is a reasonable thing to ask of the very cute, hot, amazing, smart 26-year-old. Just saying. I feel like that is not a creepy thing. Oh, well, that's the thing with age, right? That is something that you deal with when you're in your 40s and staring down 50 like the barrel of a gun. I'm going to keep bringing that up because it's fun for me. That you get accused of,
It's
which
all right.
is
I'm looking for a whiskey as old as Bonnie right now, and I can't find one.
less fun. Less fun. But this is the decade where being accused of creepy is a thing, or being accused of being a cougar is a thing. That's where kind of mocking, dismissive, and derogatory terms are. And creepy is fucking a thing, which makes me think that cougar has got to be equally a thing. I remember, when Blake moved to Texas, I was introducing him to some of my friends, and I have another friend of mine whose name is Bonnie. And she's younger than me, but only about like 5 or 6 years. And she met you, and I remember her saying to me later, she's like, I was really kind of worried about him because he's so old, but he was not he was not creepy at all. He's just not creepy. And that was great. Thank you for introducing me. And I'm like, I'm gonna tell him this forever because that's the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life. But you're welcome.
Wait.
I didn't bring a creepy guy around.
Thanks.
And what reading through the lines, what she meant was that you didn't creepily hit on her, right? That you didn't see her and decide that you were gonna stand inappropriately close to her. You weren't going to kind of track her down. You weren't going to like follow her around the party and make her pay attention to you. That you were just like, hey, cool, what's up? Bye. Right? That you treated her like a human and not a sex object, which there you go. I feel like there's the difference between creepy and cougar. But that's also like, can you meet dating younger people out in the wild or how do you do that without being accused of being creepy or a cougar? I don't know if you can. I think you kind of have to wait for the 30-somethings to hit on you. And then you're like, but
Right on. And that's the thing. Are you looking to be hit on? Are you looking not to be?
I have found that dating in the wild, the 30-somethings, is a bit more difficult. I actually have found the online dating of the 30-somethings much more successful because there's a mutual agreement of romantic and sexual interest. And so we bypass the concern about being creepy on either end, right? But yeah, dating in the wild, younger than that. I took you to a party with the other Bonnie and, you didn't hit on her. Therefore, you were suddenly, not creepy. And I don't know.
Bonnie's a great person. Didn't even cross my mind.
Well, and excellent because she's out of that +7 range, right? She's younger than that. And so it wasn't on your radar.
Like any of the people that you've ever, your friends, it's not been on my radar because.
That's not true. I have seen you be interested in several of my friends. But yes, but they're age appropriate.
But age appropriate friends. Yes. Let's call this what this is.
Well, but we're going back to what is the age appropriate? Yeah. Your age minus half +7. Or people who are looking for similar things out of life. There you go. I feel like that's what the distinction of the age is that, the friends who are around that age range who are like.
Have that conversation. I mean, like have the adult conversation when you're like meeting somebody. What are you looking for? Be honest.
Because what's the upside of lying?
Yeah. And what do you have to lose? You have nothing to lose about being honest about what you want out of life.
Well, I would say that the obvious thing to lose is a chance to fuck somebody younger than you. That's the obvious thing on the table there. That's the risk. But, if that's what you're in.
But that's a whole nother issue that you're running into. It's like, okay, am I in a teaching role on this? Or is this going to be like an Even Steven type thing?
Wow. I don't even know how to unpack what it is you just said. I don't even, yeah. Yeah, because wow, we can't go down that rabbit hole. Sorry, babe.
We can't.
Yes. You know, the rules of dating younger. The campsite rule, right? You got to leave it better than you found it. You're not allowed to fuck shit up.
Right.
Just because you're feeling like you have a bad day.
And then it goes back to the end of the day of being honest about these type of things.
Well, I mean, it goes back to your fucking favorite word, right? It starts with a C. Oh, communication. Yeah. How long does that take? Can I text it?
Yeah, sure you can. You can actually text it now. You can actually Snapchat it now. You can Instagram it now. You can Facebook it now. Whatever you want to do.
Do you Snapchat?
Yes.
Really?
I do. I follow friends. Like I have some friends that are really leading some very interesting lives. That
On Snapchat.
On Snapchat that I love to follow. A friend of mine that I worked at with a motorcycle dealership is a prime example. He saved up everything he made at the motorcycle dealership as a salesman and a manager so he could jump in an RV and travel around the country riding motorcycles where he wants to and jumping out of planes where he wants to.
Oh, wow.
And he snaps it. And he snaps these little tidbits of his day. And it's just spectacular.
Hell yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Because, I mean, he's absolutely living his dream. Another friend that is doing something very similar. It's like, I'm living the dream. What do you want from me? I'm a successful middle-aged female, and I get to travel around the country with my favorite person in the world and do cool shit.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair. I was about to, man, I had so much mockery in me around you in Snapchat that you have diffused it. Fuck you, Blake. That was so much fun. I feel like we're at that time. For
that uncomfortable question?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Who wants to go first on this one?
Do you have one?
I do.
Well, then you go first.
Okay. When's the last time, since you love to call me out on this, when's the last time that you felt that you were dating someone that was age inappropriate for you?
Age inappropriate.
And again, personally for you, not by the numbers that we're given.
Approximately 10 hours later.
I really don't want to tell this story. This sucks.
I sense a fuck you, Blake, coming.
I feel like, man, how I'm going to tell this story involves an awful lot of like disclaimers and setting me up as not a complete asshole.
You're welcome.
Fuck you, Blake. There you go. That's what you wanted. I'm a big proponent of going to school, right?
Right.
You know, that I don't actually think that an undergraduate degree or higher education actually makes you a better person. What it is, it's a passport. It's a passport into different socioeconomic levels. Usually all the thing an undergraduate degree proves is that you can start and finish something. But, you know, sometimes they won't let you in the room unless you have a passport. They won't let you into the country unless you have a passport. So I'm a big fan of, you know, kind of encouraging and supporting friends of mine going and getting that fucking passport, even if they're not in the traditional student age range. What that has done in the past is put me around traditional college student aged men. And yeah, God, how old was I? This was 2014. Oh, I was 33 and he was 22. So outside of my 10-year age range.
Say that louder again.
Shut up. All right.
How old? Oh, he was 22, ladies and gentlemen.
And I was in the oh God, there's not a lot of explanations here. I was in the throat of my being fucking important corporate job, right? And something about that job literally trains you to consume human beings or to treat them as disposable, not real, right? Because, you know, there are people like us that are very important, doing very important things for very important people. Just ask us about how important they are. And then there's everybody else and they don't count or they're there for our amusement. And that is a very heady head trip to put yourself in. And it definitely excuses a lot of sins. And I felt entitled. That's what it was. I felt entitled to toy with him and use him for sex and use him for amusement and use him for, you know, pick-me-ups, attitude adjustments. Sometimes you just want to be adored and sometimes you just want to be liked. And I was embarrassed about it. And did not want to tell my friend who introduced me to him about it. I didn't want to tell anybody about it. I treated him like a backdoor man. I snuck him into, and I live alone, right? You know, I treated him like,
You'll wake my parents up.
My cat is very judgy. Let's not bring her into this, right? Come around to the back door. Yeah, And to his credit, he blew up at me. Like he had a lot more better emotional boundaries than I did, and he blew up at me and called me out on every single like disrespectful, dehumanizing thing I was doing to him, and he was correct and told me to go fuck myself. So he was right. I was wrong. But yeah, there you go. I hate this answer. I've worked hard to become a better person.
And you have.
Thank you. Thank you for validating that statement.
You're welcome.
Fuck you, Blake. I'm glad that we're both exchanging smug looks on our face this one. I feel like we're finally getting to ourselves. There you go. You're finally understanding us. Sorry, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the nice one till I'm not.
Thank you. Finally, everybody sees it. Yeah. Yep. Here we go. All right, Blake. You know, weirdly, you kind of copied my question. I actually wrote my question down, which makes me think you were looking over my shoulder cheating. Just saying.
Yes, across the table from you on a pad. I can't see because I'm not wearing my glasses. Thanks, because I'm old. Go on.
Wow, just not going to touch that one. So, right back at you. When was the last time that you dated somebody that you felt was age inappropriate?
You.
Are you serious?
Yep.
But you didn't know how old I was when we met.
Well, now, again, hindsight 2020, I can't be, because after you, everybody's been either my age or older.
Oh, really? I turned you off of young. No, that's not true. Your last one was younger than you.
My last one was younger than me, but
Your last one was younger than me. Just saying.
But if we're going by the rule of 7.
But she didn't feel inappropriate, but I did. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. Because again, if we're going by the rule of 7, at the time, it was age appropriate.
I don't really know how old she is, but I thought she was significantly younger than me.
She's in her 30s.
Early 30s, yeah.
Yeah.
So really, I was your cradle robbing, age inappropriate. All right. May I ask follow-up questions?
Go.
When did you find out how old I was?
A while. Like,
who told you? I figured, I mean, I'm impressed that he let it go that long. I figured he would have told you that first night he was not thrilled that you and I were into each other.
But a mutual friend of Bonnie's and mine, told me exactly how old she was. And I'm like, sucking all the air out of the room.
Sorry, I just don't have the slightest bit of sympathy for you.
I know, none, zero, zip, nada. My pain is real.
The fun thing, I have very few legs to stand on, being the young jailbait that I was. But in retrospect, going through it all, I never actually had sex with a partner in which a felony was committed.
Neither have I.
Statutory, right? That I dated around a lot. I was so fucking young for everything, but I never tricked a guy. I never lied to him, and had him accidentally commit a felony. I believe felonies should be committed on purpose. Really? You felt that uncomfortable about it? well, obviously not enough.
Well, no, when I found out, I was like, ain't that a thing? Wow. And another mutual friend also dropped it too.
Who?
One of the Brooklyn boys.
Well, that I'd actually broken up with, I think, to date you. Yeah, that guy. That makes more sense to me. Yeah. But, and he was older than both of us.
So I wasn't the worst in this situation.
That was an excellent cackle, Blake. That really was. Well, you don't seem that uncomfortable of that question, but it was actually a wildly satisfying one.
And funny.
Is there anything else you want to offer about your feelings in that experience?
At the time, I was living in the moment. As Bonnie likes to tell everybody, ex-narcotics officer moves to New York, starts living his life in anything that he wants to do. I was living the absolute early 20s dream.
So, and then dating the 19-year-old NYU student, like added to the hedonism of it. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, it's like I'm dating a young, beautiful woman in New York City. I am sitting there hanging out at the hottest bars and clubs in New York City in my early 20s. Then I start bouncing at one of the hottest bars in New York City in the East Village.
You were living your best life.
I was living my absolute best life. I have zero complaints. Like zero.
Your teenage trophy girlfriend notwithstanding. Got it. It's weird when I say it that way.
But again, it's just like people ask me, like, my life between 98 and 2004 was spectacular.
Those are good years, except for, when the towers fell.
That's a whole nother story.
My 2004 ended up in Boston right before the Red Sox won the World Series. So that, that is downhill from there.
Yeah. And then 2004, I ended up out in LA trying my piece on the East Coast.
West Coast.
West Coast. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Well, I feel like you've given enough on that question. I don't know if we've solved any issues around age, but I think we've maybe have highlighted some of the weird feelings around it.
Yeah. Also, like what I recommend to everybody, other than communication, as Bonnie likes to call me out on,
and basic self-respect and respect for your partner.
Exactly. This is where, look at within yourself and see what exactly you're looking for and what you want. Be honest with yourself. Because when we look at the word appropriate, it's all about we're judging ourselves.
Well, when we're looking at the word appropriate, what we're really saying is power, right?
Yes.
We're talking about a power dynamic, a disproportionate power dynamic. And that is what age can add. Just to reference back to the first, right? Aaliyah and R. Kelly, that's a power dynamic. She was 15 and he was not, and we're all responsible for what happened to Aaliyah. And, that the age inappropriateness comes when there's a disproportionate power dynamic that one person uses to their advantage, which is my story, right?
Mm-hmm.
I use the power dynamic in which to feel entitled and to abuse. And that's when age is inappropriate, just to call it out, right?
Right on.
I think, to compare it to your inappropriate, uncomfortable conversation is that I don't really think there was a disproportionate power dynamic at all. I'm pretty sure I was totally in the driver's seat, just saying.
For most of that, you were.
Yeah, no, I'm a strong personality. So it is, if you're talking about age, you cannot separate it from power. And just be honest with yourself and honest with your partner about what that power is and how you are using it.
Yes, be honest in your pursuit.
There we go. Man, look at us. We're so old you're old and wise. You're old and I'm wise. I like that division. That works for me.
I'm seasoned in silver, ladies and gentlemen.
Seasoned and you're not sober.
Silver.
Oh, is that really a thing silver foxes say? Oh, God.
And my hair is perfect.
On that note, thank you guys for tuning in for yet another one. I want to remind you always that we are big fans and supporters of the Sims Foundation. Please, if you are feeling like donating, they do amazing work helping provide mental health care to the Austin musicians and their families. thesimsfoundation.org. Please donate if you can. I am Bonnie Neal.
And I am Blake Thompson. It is time for a refill.
Damn straight. Good night.
Good night.